Howdy guys, I'm Jeep and Jason. Today on the AutoEdits Jeep, we're gonna do some routine maintenance. When I was installing the battery last week, I noticed that the brake fluid was a little bit darker than it used to be, and that's one of those things that just gets forgotten. Every few years, you should check your brake fluid to see if it needs to be flushed. In the past, I would normally just take this opportunity to change that. As soon as I see that discoloration, I know, because when it goes in, it's perfectly clear. And when I see it darkening up, that just means that it's starting to collect some moisture and show its age. And that's something that you want to stay ahead of, especially with vehicles, modern vehicles with anti-lock braking systems. They just don't like moisture. So even though I would just normally flush this right now, I bought this cool little $12 tool, and you would just stick this in the brake fluid and it will tell you our moisture level and pretty much just confirm. I'm guessing this needs to be changed, but this will be a fun thing to demonstrate, and it's an affordable thing to get. And then I'll run you through the brake flushing procedure that I do using a very simple tool, all very affordable to the side yard garage mechanic. And there's one more thing I'd like to address while I have the Jeep here in levitation mode. I know I'm flushing it regardless of what this thing says, so that's why it's already tires off on jack stands. But I had this annoying squeal coming from the driver's rear brake. So we're gonna go ahead and diagnose it. I'm gonna take it apart, just look for it, re-lube it and put it back together and see if that solves the problem. Pretty confident it is, but it's just one of those real world things. It's fun to go in and get eyes on these things. So I'm gonna bring you in and we're gonna go ahead and confirm or deny that the brake fluid in this rig does need flushing, and we're gonna use our new cheap little tool here and have some fun. Let's get our tester pen ready. We'll just turn it on, and then you'll see another option here of what type of fluid, and I'm running .4 in here, so we'll just set it up for .4. So the readout on this thing is telling you the moisture content percentage-wise in your brake fluid, and 2.5% is what it's showing us here, is right square in the middle of you should flush your brake system. And that just confirms my suspicion that that was needed. Anything higher than 2.5% is getting towards the must change. 3% is you highly recommend to flush your brake system. Down closer to 2% is ideal. Matter of fact, let's go check some of the new stuff and see what it reads right fresh out of the canister. And you can see the screen is settling in at 1.4% moisture and a bright green background. So thumbs up, big time for our cheap little Amazon tool here. I'm gonna put a link to that in the description, so score. I like to start things off by taking a bunch of the fluid out of this thing to start. There's no sense in flushing all of this through the system, so get a clean turkey baster or plunger and you could just suck a bunch of this stuff out of here, save yourself some time. Can you see that? And for reference, this fluid is only 6 years old, or I don't know if that's only or not. That's just when this fluid was brand spanking new, and it's in the recommended time to flush. So it gives you a point of reference there. If your fluid's older than that, definitely should check it. Now I'm gonna top this off with some fresh, and from now on, this fresh stuff continues to go in until we get this whole reservoir and all of the stuff coming out of the calipers fresh. Now I'm using .4 brake fluid because it has a higher boiling point than .3, which is great for high performance or heavy duty applications like towing or stopping Jeeps with big tires and tons of armor. But I'm learning that .4 needs to be changed a little more frequently than .3. Both fluids are compatible and can be mixed in the same system. This is the Motive Power Bleeder, and I went years going, I don't need that, it's too expensive or whatever, and I can't believe that I took so long before I finally kicked down and got this thing. It's just nearly indispensable. You just get the correct adapter for your reservoir here, and we'll just go ahead and attach that. Now there's two ways to use this. You can use this by filling this with brake fluid and having it actually completely feed the system so you never have to check it. My problem with that is that I don't want to have a bunch of brake fluid sitting in here because I feel like since I use this thing every few years, that fluid is wasted inside here, and also it becomes a little problematic because it just spills. It's a little messy that way. So what I do is I just chase it. I just bleed and keep an eye on the reservoir, because you want to make sure, very important, that you don't drain the reservoir and just start introducing air bubbles. So if you keep bleeding and just keep force air into that system, it's a nightmare to get that out of these things. So I'm going to start in the back of the Jeep, and best practices in the past, in the olden days, used to be the farthest wheel from the master cylinder would be the choice, but since the days of anti-lock brakes, that doesn't really come into play. But we're going to just start on this side for now and get our first bleed and just see if we can get a nice line here. Now, on the Jeep here, the bleeder is a 10 millimeter, and I have this little tool that I've bent up nicely to fit right into this little spot here, and I'll put that on. I'll put my little bleeder hose in place. That seals good. These little adapters usually come in the little hand pump kits. They're not expensive at your local parts store, and so that's what I'm using here, and that just fits nice and snug there. That gives you a good bleed. And then to catch, you could use whatever you want. It comes with a smaller thing, but I use this coffee can and just a big magnet, and that just keeps that there, and that will keep this all contained for now. Yes, you can't see how full this is, but we're not going to drain anywhere near this much on any one of these things here. So now that we're kind of ready to go, let's go pressurize the system. About 10 works for me. All right, let's loosen this thing up and watch the fluid come out. And you can see it's dark-ish, and we'll just let that bleed. And you could definitely keep track of how much is coming out. And about now is when we'll do a quick check. It's only dropped down to 8, and we'll see where our fluid is. And I'll just hold a flashlight behind here, and the fluid is still plenty full. I'll go up a little bit. About 15, we'll see if that moves fluid any faster. Not that I'm in any rush here. It's definitely a good spot to just take your time. You want this done correctly. That's about good for now. Let's tighten that up. So that whole first bleed really didn't take much out of here, but we'll top it off while I have this open. That took enough, actually. All right, let's pressurize the system again. Open it up. Yeah, still showing enough stuff that I want to flush. So what I'm going to do is jump up to the front wheel up there and do this exact same thing up there, and then come back and see if we have cleared the actual reservoir, the master cylinder reservoir up there. Let's take a little bit out of here, and we're there. So this right here is the goal for all 4 of those. I'll top that up back there, and I'll just keep hitting those. So we're jumping back to this rear, and now we should have much higher expectations of what's coming out of here. Let's check again. Still not good. This is taking longer than I thought to get all of this out. Okay, finally. I think we're there. All right, final checks. That's what we're talking about. All right, finally got it. That took a little bit longer than I thought. So let's go grab that other back wheel. All right, let's check. Oh yeah, we're there. Look at that. Took much less effort. Last wheel. We've double checked that our reservoir is ready to go, pressurized and ready to go. Let's bleed. Nice and dark coming out now. I do this little shock thing where I close it and then open it, and I can see a little change in fluid coming out. I just kind of feel like that kind of helps swirl and mix it around. Whether it does, I don't know, but it works for me, so I do it. Can you see that? Now, since we've never introduced air into the system, you should never see bubbles. That's just a little tip right there. So if you are, it's good to be getting those out, but you shouldn't see those. If you notice, we aren't. Oh, we are there. We are in perfection mode right now. So that's my happy space. Oh yeah, we're there. Okay, we'll lock that down. Remember, 11 mil on the front, 10 mil on the back. We'll double check that fluid. And as you can see, it is perfectly clear fluid. We are flushed. Check this out. This is how little fluid it took to do that entire thing. So that was a generous flush of this piston and the lines to that piston. So that just goes to show you that after the system's purged, it doesn't take a ton, but that's about exactly what you would think that piston would hold and the line up to the reservoir. It looks like it just happened to leave off at the perfect level. Come on, check it out. So you can see that the fluid is right at the max line right here. And the other cool indication that the fluid is good is look at how clear it is, just shining a light through the reservoir here. And we'll call this good. All right, let's check our brake pedal. Make sure we have one. And you just want to be gentle on it right now. And that's actually better than I expected. Sometimes it just gets funky and it'll take a few times to pump, but right now it's just rock solid. So now what I'll do is I'll start the Jeep just to make sure, but it feels like we just did an absolutely perfect job of this. I thought it'd be fun to jab our fancy new tester back into the reservoir one last time to bask in the glory, and had a mild heart attack while it took about 10 seconds to settle in at 1.5%. Hooray! Now that we're done with all the slimy fluid stuff, we could swap to a stage 1 clean glove. Does anybody know about the different stages of shop rags and gloves? This would be a stage 2 when you're doing, slimy stuff like that, and you can see the wear. This is stage 1. This is for the good, clean stuff, and then they transfer over to stage 2, stage 3, then the trash. Maybe I should do a video on that. All right, enough jibber jabber. Here's the rear brake that's squeaking. On the Center Force trail run I was just on, I was that annoying guy. I was so embarrassed that through all of the tricky obstacles when you're just creeping through on the brakes, it was like, it wasn't horrible, but it was there. And this Jeep has just never really does that. So that's when you just dive in. Now, there's several things that could cause brake squeal. It could be just flat out, just a lot of brake dust build up between the pad and the rotors here. Now, the Z36 pads and rotors that I have here, that isn't gonna be the thing here. These just don't do that. What I think is what's going on here is that sometimes you could wear off the grease that you put into the tabs here that's on this, what they call the sliders here, the pad sliders, and that sometimes may cause the pad to make some funky noises or do something weird, and that is what I think is going on back here. Another good thing to check for during your inspection right now is to check that both pads look the same, and I have that going on here. Both pads are wearing this exact same, because sometimes when you're doing a lot of water crossings and wet weather type stuff, you may wear out the grease inside your little sliders here, and that will cause premature wear on one side of the pad or the other, because the caliper, this is a floating caliper, it should slide on these two pins right here and float and wear the pads evenly. This one looks like it's doing that great. So what I'm going to do is just undo the caliper from the rotor, and we'll pull the pads off, clean the edges, re-grease it, and put it back on, and I think that's going to solve it. So let's do that. And yeah, there's quite a bit of dirt inside here. We'll clean it while we're here, because that's how we roll. Now we'll yank our pads out. And yeah, sure enough, it is just dry as a bone and crusty inside where these sliders are. Bet you the same thing on the outside. And sure enough, it is dry. So that means all the water crossings and maybe a little vigorous pressure washing in there sprayed all of my grease out of there. Final thing to check are the sliders. Just make sure that the grease is good and that those move freely, and they do. These things feel great. Cleaning this area out. So you want to grease both of the ears just like this, not get crazy, but enough to last, or else you'll get where we're at now. Get those back in position. We're gonna put a little bit of grease on each of these tabs here, and very carefully just a little bit around the piston, making sure not to get any on the rubber seal there, just in case over years and years it eats away at that. And this should go into place. So I'm absolutely confident that we solved our squeak here. And plus we got a little bit of a glimpse into, you know, the wear. This is a great time to just, these are the things that you get to know your Jeep and you just stay in touch with, and you look at everything, make sure nothing's loose and all of your jam nuts are tight, everything's good. So this is part of being one with your Jeep and just having some fun with the maintenance. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side, and that should button this thing up. So there you go, some fun do-it-yourself maintenance for you and your Jeep, little bonding time. We did a little problem solving back there as well. Confident that we solved my squeal. And just for your frame of reference, it took a little over 24 ounces, so it was basically those two and about this much is what was left in this one. And that's what it took to flush this system. So get yourself a surplus of that. But this is a fun one and can save you quite a bit of money. This is an expensive job to have a dealer or a mechanic do for you. So pay attention, make sure no air bubbles are in your system, and you get a nice firm pedal like I have on this magnificent beast right here. And hope to see you guys out on the trails soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, enjoy your drive. All right. Yeah.